Business.
This is the community's release valve. You're tuned into Late Night Counsel on 580 CFRA.
And this is James in Ottawa. Hi, James.
Hi, John. How are you tonight?
How am I tonight? I'm exceptional tonight, James. From my war perspective, I could be totally wrong, but I feel good.
Well, as long as you feel good, right?
I don't know. A lot of people feel good and they're like up the creek without a paddle and, they're living in la-la land. That could be me for all I know. But anyway.
Well, that's all of us.
But you asked me what I thought, so I told you, James. How are you?
Well, I'm pretty discouraged just at the moment.
Well, talk to me here.
There was an event planned for tomorrow on Parliament Hill from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. It was basically a draw irreverent pictures, draw what you want event. I mean, clearly it was meant to focus on Islamic blasphemy.
Okay, now who organized this?
Well, see, I'm trying to get to the names of the organization. There is a website there. I finally found a name. I will send you the links to the person who organized it. But the thing that's interesting is last week they had a solid yes from the RCMP. They had a permit from Heritage Canada, who I guess are the people that hand out permits for events at Parliament Hill. Everything was a go, and it was I think it's personally a very important event. I think it's no less an important event than Rosa Parks moving to the front of the bus. Mm-hmm. And I would debate anyone who says otherwise, because I really don't see the difference between the Ku Klux Klan telling black people that if you don't do exactly what we say, we're going to beat you up, to Muslims saying if you violate what we consider to be sacred by our terms, we're going to kill you. So. In any case, this event was scheduled for tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and at the last minute, at about, 4 or 5 o'clock today, Heritage Canada withdrew the permit and cited security concerns, and they called the event off. Now, this was to be at Parliament Hill, so I think the reason I feel so incredibly discouraged is because, in essence, this is an abandonment of sovereignty and the concession to making Canadian laws. I mean, you can...
Yeah, it's repressive forces holding sway.
Absolutely. This is a thugocracy. I mean, what's the point of even having a parliament? What's the point of having police if they don't defend the law? Yeah. What's the point of having people sitting there at high pay that we elect at great cost, sitting there pontificating about things, making up what your rights are and making up what the laws and the rules are, if at the end of the day it makes no difference whatsoever. It's a bunch of thugs who we let in, some theocrats, who are going to determine what we can and can't do and what we can say and what matters. It's because they're going to commit a violent act if we go against, and their rules are infinitely more repressive than anything anybody in this country could imagine.
I don't think you can call it anything else except jihadists hijacking our government.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what it is.
This is an incredible loss of... I think this is a lot more serious than things which would make big headlines. The fact that the government and the police and the security forces of this country cannot maintain Canadian law on the front lawn of the federal government Parliament building.
Oh yeah,
Canada.
but James, come on now. The Mike Duffy trial's going on a couple blocks, south of there.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty.
I mean,
sure
we know media says we know what priorities. You know what? We've got our priorities straight. We know what Canadians want. They don't care about the erosion of democracy and the fact that jihadists have hijacked the government. They want to know whether Mike Duffy misappropriated $27,000 in housing expenses.
Well, media doesn't do what it used to do. I mean, there really is no investigative journalism. Media now it's like, especially in the States, but I think also generally in Canada, is a bunch of very comfortable people that don't want to rock any boats that might affect their personal situations.
Don't want to lose access to the mucky mucks.
Now, there's a couple of related issues, if you don't mind, I'd just like to blow through because I think they're worthy of mention.
Go for it.
So the Americans made a big deal about taking out one Islamic State guy. It was a very, very risky and expensive operation where they took out the CFO, I think, or somebody they claimed was the CFO. The next day, the Islamic State took over a city of 900,000 people. That would be practically exactly the population of Ottawa, give or take 10%. And they then took over that city, which gave them the entire province of Anbar, and they're 60 miles from Baghdad. So the news seems to be focusing on this, what they consider to be an American triumph. I have my own theory about that, but it's going to sound too out there for the moment. But the facts are that the Americans did take it out. Media is focusing on that one completely pointless event, since I'm sure there's 250 people that could easily replace that guy. And they took over this massive city, and of course, they're already eliminating and exterminating all people they consider to be complicit with the government, and there's going to be a genocide to be perpetrated there against all non-Sunni Muslims. Now, there's something interesting that happened. The American government asked media in the States to not show, you know what B-roll is? B-roll, I'm sure you do.
No, I don't.
B-roll is like when you're seeing a news report, and you've got this talking head explaining story, and behind him there's maybe some archive film showing something related.
Mm-hmm.
They call that B-roll. And the White House, specifically the White House now, asked media in the States to not show B-roll of large convoys of Islamic State jihadis traveling around in Toyota Land Cruisers with light and heavy machine guns. And the reason they don't want them showing that is they claim that that's not the case anymore. And they feel it makes the American government look bad because it would be so easy. And actually, we've talked about this on this show before. It would be so easy for, I mean, basically, like these days, you can buy a little infrared camera that'll fit on your smartphone that'll show you a Toyota Land Cruiser driving around in pitch black with no lights on. You'll be able to see it, see how many people are on board. I mean, there's no way that satellites with X-band radar and every other possible frequency analysis that are sitting above these targets couldn't see a convoy of Islamic State, and they couldn't have a couple of F-16s take out the whole convoy with zero collateral damage. There's no way that could not happen. And people are starting to notice. So the American government asked the media specifically a couple of days ago, I think it was on the 15th, to not show this B-roll. But on the 15th, when they rolled into, what was the city called? Something that ends with an I. That city they just took the other day. There's all kinds of fresh footage of tons of convoys of Islamic State, not just in Toyota Land Cruisers, but in Humvees. There's all kinds of footage that they themselves have posted all over YouTube showing these convoys fresh from the 15th.
Yeah, and where's the F-16s taking them out, you know?
Well, it could have. But the thing is, the American government was claiming that they wanted the media to stop showing this footage because they felt that it was misleading the public, because, in fact, the truth is, really it's just a couple of individual trucks without their lights on, going through the desert themselves to avoid being targets. Well, even if that was true, and like I said, we can prove that it isn't, because you can see, based on the location, where these new convoys are coming in and out of the cities they're conquering. So we know that wasn't true. But even if what the American government claimed was true, you can still see a truck at night in the desert because it's hot and the desert's cold, and you've got satellite intel, and they could be taking these guys out. And frankly, I don't think a couple of stray Toyota Land Cruisers with a few jihadis could take a city of 900,000 people.
Now, James, the event that was canceled on Parliament Hill, we got to go to the news right now. Can you send me any info, like if anybody's picking up on this? Because if it's not a news story, it needs to be made a news story. It needs to go viral. People need to know what's going on here.
I certainly will.
Okay. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
We're right back after the news. Open line, open topic, all the way to 11 o'clock. 521-8255 is number to call. Star 580 on Bell Mobility. 1-800-580-2372 is the long-distance line. We're right back after the news. Stay with us.
He may not agree with you, but you'll always get your say on CFRA's Late Night Counsel.
Welcome back. Hour number 2. Whatever's on your mind, give me a call. 521-8255 is the number to call. That's 521-8255. Star 580 on the Bell Mobility System. 1-800-580-2372 is the long-distance line. The stuff that James sent me via email, I have posted on Twitter, and it's on the Late Night Council Facebook page. It's an event that it's called, get it right here, Rise Canada, May 20th, 1 p.m., Parliament Hill, Ottawa citizens to show Mohamed cartoons. On Wednesday, May 20th, a group of Ottawa citizens has secured a permit from the RCMP to display Mohamed cartoons and other satirical images at the northwest corner of the front lawn of Parliament Hill. So this was supposed to go on tomorrow at 1 p.m. They had the permit. They were ready to go. Heritage Canada canceled it. I don't know what your opinion is on that. In my opinion, that is jihadists hijacking our government right there. That is an affront. That is a blatant affront to free speech in Canada. And it is the advancement of what I consider Sharia law. And if you want to share your thoughts on it, you feel free. If you want to check out Rise Canada, they're on Facebook. We'll put the tweet. I'll tweet out the address for their Facebook page as well, so you can check them out and you find out for yourself. I just don't like it that people coming from other cultures, and the reason they're coming here is because the countries that they're leaving are repressive and dangerous and violent. And they want us to succumb to those crazy values that have left their countries in shambles? I don't think so. And yet politicians rolling over and dying for votes seem to be willing to sacrifice some of our most precious rights, freedom of speech being one of them, for the sake of currying favor of voting blocks. I can't see it any other way. Can you? Please, I want to hear your opinion on it. 521-8255 is the number to call. That's 521-8255. I tweeted out the info on the event put on by Rise Canada that was canceled by Canadian Heritage Ministry. It was supposed to go on tomorrow. And I've just tweeted out their Facebook page where you can get more info. And lo and behold, I guess she was listening to the show, Alexandra Belair. Now, Alexandra, are you the director of Rise Canada?
Oh, no, I'm not affiliated with Rise Canada. They were kind enough to help publicize the event for me, but it's just little old me, no organization as such that was putting this on. It was just me.
Oh, but you're the organizer of the event?
Yes.
Okay, good to have you on. You've never called my show before, have you?
No, I haven't.
Do you know what we do for first-time callers?
Yes, I do.
So you already knew that. Okay, that's good. Okay, Alexandra, so were you the one that got the memo from Heritage Canada?
Yes, I am.
What'd they tell you?
Well, originally I had met with the protective detail with the RCMP. Everything was on. And then at 5:25 this afternoon, I got a call from Heritage Canada saying that due to security concerns, it's off and there's no appeal, and they wouldn't share with me any details of what the security concerns were.
Wow. So they wouldn't let you know if anybody complained?
No.
They wouldn't?
Absolutely not.
Wow. And
it's a little upsetting because, I was hoping to exercise the freedom to blaspheme, and it wasn't aimed directly
it's
at
not. No.
Islam.
It's not the freedom to blaspheme here. It's freedom of speech. It's interpreted by one, religious group as blasphemy. But, Are we going to give them authority and sway in this country that other people can't, express their feelings any way they want? I guess so.
Well, I was very explicit in stating that because the Pope had said it would be justified to use violence if someone had offended his mother or insulted his mother. So I included, let's draw Pope's mother. There's people sitting in jail for using a picture of Buddha with headphones on. So I said, okay, let's draw Buddha with headphones on.
Alexander, if you got a better phone connection, your phone is breaking up here. Almost everything you're saying is getting cut off by a bad phone connection here. Have you got a better phone?
Is this better?
Okay, well, we can keep talking, but for while you were talking there, and it was very passionate,
I'm sorry.
and I appreciate what you're saying, but it was cutting out like crazy. If there's another setting that's better, please use it, because we want to hear what you've got to say here.
I can call back on another phone in a few moments.
No, you're sounding good now.
Okay, I'm standing right next to the
to the modem.
Yes.
So where are you going to go from here? I hope you're going to go public about this. I mean, I'm delighted you're on this program here, because the last thing I want to see is my government hijacked by a bunch of jihadists and leaving you in the dark as to why. It sounds very totalitarian to cancel a freedom of speech event and with no reasons given, no security detail.
Absolutely.
My first assumption would be that's a load of crap.
Tomorrow is International Dra Mohamed Day. I hope everybody participates in any way they can. That's why I was holding the event on tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping perhaps if there's enough of a support, I can, in a couple of weeks, apply for another permit to do a general freedom of speech no matter what day. But I'm discouraged because if they won't even tell me why it was canceled, I can't take precautions to guard against that, right?
No, have you got a hold of your local MP on this?
I will. My local MP is Pierre Poliver. I will be contacting him tomorrow to find out what's
Alexander,
going on.
will you please keep us in your radar? We want to know what's going on here, okay?
Absolutely. I will let you know.
And I want to make sure they're treating you properly and they're not pulling any, goofy political games here to curry favor with, an ideology that wants to, repress us here. It's Sharia law. It's the advancement of Sharia law in this country. That's exactly what it is. And anybody who doesn't think it's that doesn't understand the principles for which Sharia law comes in and slowly takes over. You've got entire neighborhoods in Britain and France that the authorities won't even go into now because they're governed by Sharia law.
Absolutely. I'm an immigrant to Canada. I came here for freedom of speech. I was born on the wrong side of the Iron Curtain. I came here for freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to stand by and watch us lose it.
Well, you got an ally on this program, Alexandra. Keep us posted, okay?
Thank you. I will.
Yeah, good having you on. There's Alexandra Belair. You can find out about Rise Canada, which she says she's not affiliated with, but apparently they partnered with her. Their Facebook page is up there, and I don't like our nation, doing business like this. I really don't like this. Okay, and that's why I'm delighted she called in. That was not a planned call. I've never met her before, I guess she must have heard we were talking about it tonight, and I don't mind giving her the publicity at all. Now, I guess it's a story that's developing, and I hope it does develop. Because if you're gonna axe, events like that, when we've had radical events go forward that are much more potentially dangerous in the long term for the culture of the nation here, this sets a very, 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 very dangerous precedent. When you know what is on the agenda of Sharia law, when you know what their agenda is to slowly, in a generational thing, slowly get a beachhead in a culture and then slowly take over. And using our own human rights and freedom of speech laws against us to repress anything that criticizes or paints their, ideology in a negative light. I think it's about time Canadians woke up and smelled the coffee on this one. It's too late for Britain and France now. They've got social issues with this issue now that they can't go back now. And I'm expecting Britain or France or another major European country to be declared an Islamic state in my lifetime. Because the forces that are pushing for that, they're not taking no for an answer. They're not backing off. And you cannot treat people that are of that ideological ilk, this jihadist ilk. You can't treat it with, we're going to negotiate, we're going to compromise. That's exactly what the way they want you to feel. Because they have no intention of the jihadist element has no intention of peacefully coexisting. They want to eradicate all repression whatsoever. Eradicate all disagreement with their code of beliefs whatsoever. That is the ultimate goal. And it's stated quite explicitly. And they hide it well. And part of their agenda and part of their warped version of Islam is that they are encouraged to lie. They are encouraged to be deceptive. And it's allowed for the purpose of advancing this warped version of Islam. And from Francis, in the soon-to-be defunct United States of America, now to be formerly known as Obamistan, Islamic terrorism does not exist. Islamophobia is the real crime. Truth is lies and up is down. Orwell himself could not have imagined a world where the supposed leader of the free world seeks community with those who would seek domination or the extermination of free people. And from Mike, naturally, we are to assume that all future G20 summits and similar events which draw violent protests will have their permits pulled at the last minute in order to keep the public safe. I'm sure that will happen. Savages do what savages do. I blame those who would rather sell out because they are too personally afraid to defend us from actual threats. They are too busy protecting us from liberty. That's a good point, Mike. And from Joanna, not all West John, this is one more example of government kowtowing to Islamist Sharia norms. I hope this makes the national news and that every Canadian who believes in our value of freedom of speech stands up to this intimidation by Islamists. I'm convinced there are Islamists there's jihadists in high-ranking positions in our government. And they got wind of this and they shut this down right away. Please explain to me, how else it could have happened. I'm all ears. 521-8255 is the number to call. That's 521-8255. Mackie wants to talk about the Draw Mohamed protest that was supposed to happen tomorrow, that they got a government permit for, and it was rescinded by Heritage Canada. You a first-time caller to the show, Mackie?
Yes, I am.
Well, that's what you get. Do you know Alexandra?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay, so tell me what you think of this whole thing.
Well, actually, I am very much for democracy, but it contrasts a little bit with the way I was raised, and I was always raised with the fact that just because you can say something, it doesn't necessarily mean you should say it, and just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you can do it. And then I was trying to follow that little model all the way through high school, and I'm older than you are there now. And when I listen to Alexandra and, people like her, and I'm sure she's a very noble lady and everything else, but I go back to what democracy was all about. Really, democracy first started in North America because we were supposed to be allowed our free speech so that we couldn't criticize the government, the president, or the prime minister, and without getting our heads chopped off. That was the basis of democracy. We decided we didn't want that type of country. And so it's progressed, of course, over the years to where maybe, in my opinion, we've carried it a little bit too far, and we're saying some things that really don't need to be said. And they want to do something in a public place, a very public place, where it's almost, and I don't know Alexandra, but I'm sure she's not deliberately doing anything, but it's almost like we'll set up controversy. We love controversy. We'll set up controversy down in a public place. But when this public place gets attacked and innocent people get killed, government workers, innocent passerbys get killed, we'll be long gone. I say to Alexandra, if you'd like to protest and use your democratic freedoms, put those signs in your front lawn. Put them in your window, where if anybody's attacked, it will be you.
I disagree, Mackie. I'll tell you why. Because we trust government to protect us from this type of repression, okay? And you use the example of democracy is developed so you can criticize the government without getting your heads cut off. Well, this type of repression is cutting people's heads off when they draw pictures of Mohammed. And I think it's very, very noble for our citizenry to say there's no way that cripping terror is going to get any foothold whatsoever in this country. And the problem is it has a foothold. It has a foothold strong enough to silence our authorities that we trust to protect our freedom of speech. And remember, freedom of speech is the freedom to say things that, tick you off. And if I do not defend the freedom of speech of somebody to say something that tick me off, then it's not freedom of speech whatsoever. Freedom of speech is not just saying the nice thing that doesn't offend people, okay? I mean, do you realize where this is going? Do you realize the weakness of your argument? When you said, democracy started, so that people could criticize the government, getting their heads cut off. This is the very thing that is at the roots of democracy here. And we already see it having a foothold in this country to the point where the government is able to shut down dissent like this. I mean, anyway,
And
glad you called in, Mackie.
Oh, I could add one more thing.
Go ahead.
If I have time. Not only with, I see it not only with, in terms of Muslims and things. I see it with Christianity too, where they draw pictures of a cross upside down in urine and things like that. And what we've come down to, we've minimized it so much that I have a 12-year-old nephew that tells me, we go to Bethel, by the way, who tells me, we try to get him to come to church. Oh, he's just phony. He's just like Santa Claus. That's what they've been built up to learn, that all these things that are happening, and young influential people, and that's why we're having trouble getting young people back into the churches again, because of all of this nonsense that goes on.
Mackie, that's a bad example, because nobody was killed because somebody drew a picture of Jesus, standing in urine, or and I know the Mapplethorpe photographs that you're talking about. We've talked about them on the show. Okay.
No, but it minimizes, and Christians don't say anything. We don't say anything.
Well, yeah,
it.
Because we're told, we're ordered to love our enemies. Okay, and you got an expression of Islam here that you'd even draw a picture that depicts Mohamed in a negative light. And they have killed people. They've killed people for doing that. That's why the example of Christianity being persecuted, it's a bad example to compare it to. It really is.